Today's webinar is going to walk through the process of entering applications into BNI Connect, which is typically a process in many regions that the secretary treasurer of a chapter will do. And there's a number of reasons why it's a good idea to enter applications in as quickly as possible. And the main reason for that is it helps the member to get their experience started right away. For example, if you take in an application and you go through the application process and the review process, and then all of a sudden the member's now inducted into the chapter, then you put that into the mail and it gets sent into the regional office, and then they get entered a couple of days later or sometimes a week later, and then the payment gets processed, and all of a sudden the member's now not in BNI Connect for another week or 2 weeks or sometimes even longer. So to help facilitate that process and to really get members started off on the right foot as quickly as possible, one thing that's possible to do is to enter those applications right away into BNI Connect. And it's a very, very easy process. Anybody that's ever entered a form online will be familiar with how this works in BNI Connect as well. Before we get started with that process, just a couple of quick housekeeping things. This is a live webinar for those of you that are here with me today. So that means that you can ask questions. We don't have a two-way audio with this webinar format. However, the best way to ask questions, or if you have comments or anything, is to type your question in. For example, Joe just typed a question in a minute ago about no audio yet, but we hadn't started, and the audio should be coming through now. So type your questions in. I'll see that pop up on my screen and I can answer it as we're going through the material today. Now, this is probably going to take, it really only takes about 10-15 minutes to go through the process. That said, I'm happy to stay here with you guys and answer any questions you might have, whether it's about this or about anything else in BNI Connect. Feel free to ask away. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with this process. And again, entering applications, it's fairly straightforward. The place that we're going to go to do this, though, is we are going to go to the operations menu. The operations menu is where you go whenever you're doing data entry. So a lot of people have come to me in the past and said, oh yeah, BNI Connect, it's not the most user-friendly platform on the planet, and people get lost doing stuff. Well, you'll notice that there are these menu items along the top here, and this is really where everything in the system is. We have network. This is all the networking components, the groups, the testimonials, connections. Really, it's that kind of social media side of BNI Connect. Operations is the day-to-day, really input portion of BNI Connect. Reports are always read-only. That's where we get information back out. And finally, the admin section, which really is more just about permissions and things like that. But the place we're going to go today is under the operations menu. So under operations, you'll see this is where we have all of the different chapter management functions. And there's tons of different things in here: managing visitors, managing the meeting, in other words, the POMS reports and things like that, and the speaker rotation. Managing memberships, which is what we're going to talk about today, managing goals, the mentoring program, and creating emails. The place that we go to do everything with memberships is manage memberships. And you'll see that there's three different things here. We have manage members, we have enter new application, and we have view pending applications. So the process for entering a new application, there's actually two different ways that we can go about entering applications into BNI Connect. The first of which is to go directly to enter new application. And this is what I recommend doing each time. Go to enter new application. Now, once you get here, obviously you'll have the paper application in front of you to work off of. But this right here is the most important step of the entire process, and that is searching for previous memberships. And the reason for that is that BNI Connect is set up where the way the records are set up, you have two different types of records. You have a person record. In other words, you have you as a human being, and then you have your membership record. So there are people that may come to BNI, then they leave, and then they come back, and then they leave, and they come back. What we want to make sure is that if somebody leaves and comes back to BNI, that we recover all of their previous information. And that way they don't have to set up their profile again, and all of their stats will be intact, and they can take a look at their personal Palms report and see not just the current membership, but all the stuff that they had done in the past as well. We can only do that by making sure we find that person here in the search for previous memberships. So let's say that I have an application on my desk here. It is for Qwerty McQwerty, for my BNI Burr chapter up in Antarctica. So here we have Qwerty McQwerty, and I'm just going to do a search for him. So you can put in the full name, the last name, that you can put in the email address. That's optional if you want to. And this is going to actually search the entire world of BNI. So even if somebody moved from Connecticut to New Mexico, and they left a chapter in Connecticut, and now they'd like to join a chapter in New Mexico, you would find their BNI record here in the system. Now, the best part about that is that when we find that person, we can see them here. I can see this Qwerty McQwerty from Antarctica and typer time, and that's his email address. If I click this little red head here for convert to member, most of the information has already been filled out for me. So his address details and the name and all of that is there. Now you can change that as we're going through, but again, it's going to recover his data as well as kind of minimize the paperwork or the data entry that we have to do. So we're just going to choose the application date. Now the application date is going to be the date of the application as you have it in your hands. So at the top, it should be the day that they turned it in, and that will determine when their membership starts. So even though it's today may be July 18th, they may have turned that application in on the 6th. So July 6th would be the application date. We're going to verify the country and the region and the chapter they're going into, and the industry and classification. Now, if you're looking for there is a list of industry and classifications that's available in the documents section of BNI Connect, where I just find it easier to search an Excel spreadsheet than it is to look through these drop-down lists. If you'd like a copy of that, again, you can go to the documents section. We're going to choose the sponsor. Fill in any additional information. For example, the product service description. One kind of best practice, if you will, out there is whatever they write on the physical application is what you should actually put verbatim in the product service description. This will serve as a record of what they actually entered. Now, the drop-down list itself is, it's a little bit more limited. We have about 700 or so different professions in here, but I'm sure there are thousands and thousands of professions in the world. So you're really finding what's closest here, and this is the opportunity to put in, he's involved, Qwerty McQwerty here is involved with books, but he's really an antique bookseller. So I can put that product service description in there. And Justin says, just double checking, is this supposed to be all under operations, manage memberships? Yep, so you go to operations, manage memberships, and then enter new application. So enter new application. And if it's not there, then the permissions haven't been turned on yet. So we'll have to talk to your executive director to make sure that those do get turned on. All right, they might be waiting until after the training in order to turn those permissions on. All right, so the rest of this is just filling out the remainder of the details as far as the email address and the website address. It is important to make sure that you have a valid email in here because as soon as we click enter, they're going to get their invitation to register in BNI Connect and a thank you for becoming a member. Finally, on the bottom, we have our different payment options. So you can choose what kind of payment they had, offline card or a cash or check or other, and whether it is a 1 year or a 2-year membership. After that, I just click submit and that's all there is to it. That member is now entered into BNI Connect. Of course, we can always go and check the pending applications to see that this member was entered successfully. So again, if I go back to the operations menu, I go back to manage memberships. If I go to view pending applications, I will see that QWERTY McQWERTY has been entered. It's a new application. And once that the office has received the payment, they'll do what is called reconciling this, and that person will disappear from this list. Joe says, is this just VP and or secretary access? Generally speaking, and I know Gail is on the call with us as well, but generally speaking, this is going to be that something the secretary treasurer has access to. All right. Cool. So, Kristen, I see that you have your hand up. If you can, just type your question in, and I will be happy to answer that question for you. All right, so as I said, there is another way to enter visitors. Now, again, normally we're going to go through manage memberships, enter new application, but you can also do it from the visitor side. So if you can convert a visitor into a member. And there's 2 ways to do that. So one way is if we have manage visitors, we can go to manage visitors after a meeting. We can search for any visitors to the chapter during a time frame. Oh, haven't had many visitors in Antarctica recently. All right, so here we have Victor Visitor has come a couple of times. And one of these options is convert to member. So I can go and click on convert to member. And again, this is going to bring me back to that initial search. So no matter what, all of the time, we want to make sure that we're searching for that previous membership. We can click search. And it's telling me no previous memberships have been found. Please click next to continue. And the second step of this, it will automatically search for any visitors from the region with that name. So here I can see that we have a couple of different Victor visitors here. And I would like the Victor visitor that visited on the 28th. And once again, if the visitors have been entered into the system, this is very easy to do because all of the information will already be here for us. So again, minimizing the amount of data entry if the visitor process is followed before this application has been entered. April has a question, should this be entered after the membership has been approved? So yes, what's going to happen is the actual process from start to finish is the member would come, they would apply to the chapter, they would turn in that application, and the VP and the membership committee will then have their meeting about that new membership and review the references and everything. After it has been approved, then it would be handed back to the secretary treasurer, who would then go ahead and enter it into BNI Connect. So it should be, again, after that has been approved. So Joe says, if we have members that joined our chapter prior to this system, and that member was a BNI member elsewhere, do we want to search them out? Absolutely. You will always, always, always want to search, and whenever possible, find that person here in this new application step 1. Now, one other thing that I didn't mention the first time, this is more just a little a tip and trick here. Sometimes people will have a different name on their application than they had previously. So on the application, you'll notice that one of the lines is, were you ever a member in BNI before, yes or no? You want to pay special attention if they choose yes to make sure that we're finding them. And there's a lot of times when, Joe, you could have put either Joe or Joseph on your application. So if I was to search here, let's say that you had left BNI and you were coming back again. So if I was to search for Joseph Villalva, right, and I do a search here, this kind of is tricking me into thinking, oh no, Joe was never a member before, but you know what? On the application, you checked off, no, I was a previous member. Sometimes what you need to keep in mind is that, you could have been Joe or Joseph. What I like to do is I kind of take it down to the bare minimum. If I put in J-O, it will find both Joe and Joseph when I do this search. And, the same for, Steve and Stephen, for example. And now you can see that I found Joe, and Joe is the president here. You'll notice there's no little red head here for me to go and click on to convert, and that is because you can only be a member in one chapter at a time. But if Joe was to leave his chapter, we'd see that there's no roles left, and the red head would appear for me to put him into the chapter. So, Joe, does that answer your question? Awesome. So let's say that we do have somebody here that we need to put in, and let's say it's I don't know, Martin McFly. I do a search and we don't find a previous Martin McFly. I go to my next step and I'm going to look for visitors, and there are no visitors found. So if there's no visitor and there's no previous member, then we just go and finally the button will become available just to say enter new member. And that same form will pop up and allow us to just enter a new member. Of course, at this point, we have to enter all of the information in. And when we click submit, they will be active. All right, so that, for the most part, my friends, is entering applications in BNI Connect. Now, one final thing I just want to show you is you do have a personalized shortcut menu in BNI Connect so that you don't have to go to operations, chapter, manage memberships, enter new member. If you want to, you can always go to chapter shortcuts here on the home page. This list here is fully customizable by you. So you can put your own shortcuts here. You can see here we already have enter new application. So instead of going to operations, chapter, meeting, manage memberships, enter new application, I can just go to chapter shortcuts, enter new application, and it will bring me right there. So it saves some hunting and pecking and having to, it even saves a bunch of clicks for us. All right, so Sean says, will we enter members that are changing from one chapter to another? So those ones would need to be processed by your regional office. And the reason for that is that most of the time they're going to have a certificate of credit that needs to be applied to their membership. And if there is a certificate of credit, then that's something that has to be managed by your regional office. So you would have to ask your office to get involved at that point. So does that help, Sean? Gail, I do see you on the call. Is there anything else that you would like to add or mention specifically about the process in your region? And let me see if I can make you an organizer and unmute you. Gail, are you there?
I'm unmuted. Yes.
Excellent. Is there
I'm
anything else you'd
asking
like
around
to
the
add?
room if anybody.
Okay.
We're fine. Everybody said that they did well.
All right, so everything's crystal clear.
Jeremy, why don't you give them the email address, your email address, in case they're not so crystal clear, and they can give you a
Sure.
call.
So a couple of things. If you're questioning, if you can't remember how to do something, you can always click the little question mark in front of the options. So there's under Enter New Application, you'll see a little question mark here. Click on that button. That will take you to the help article that walks through all of the steps, step by step by step. The other thing you can do is if you have any questions, the best way to get in touch with our team is to submit a support ticket. And the way you do that, click this big question mark in the upper right-hand corner. That will take you to our support site. Oops, forgive me. I have a special account on there, so. But that will take you to our support site. And up at the top, you'll see a button that says Submit a Request. And that will allow you to submit a support ticket to the support team. That's the best way to do it. You can always send me an email directly, support@bniconnect.com. But if you submit a ticket, that would go to the whole team and allow any of us to be able to help you as quickly as possible. All right. Are there any other questions?
Still on? Or am I muted?
Nope, you're still on.
You can hear me? Jeremy, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you, Gail.
Okay. Is this recorded? Have you recorded this webinar?
Yes, I have recorded this, and I'll send you the recording so that you can use it and distribute it as you need to.
Jeremy, did you record this seminar?
Gail, yes, the webinar is recorded.
It is recorded. Okay, when will they be able to get into it?
I can email you a copy of it within the next half hour.
That would be great. I'd appreciate that. Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, that's it, Jeremy. You did an awesome job as usual. You're still my rock star.
All right. Well, I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar.
Thank you so much.
All righty. Bye.
Bye.